Hello everyone and welcome back to the Blackfoot Book Club and another volume of my Essential Film Reviews collection. And I bring you a favourite film from 2017 entitled A Monster Calls, directed by J.A. Bayona. How does the story begin? Based on an original idea by Siobhan Dowd and written for the screen by Patrick Ness, based on his novel of the same name, A Monster Calls is many things: exceptional, brilliant, heartbreaking and originally unique, and these are just the tip of a huge list of superlatives I could apply to this film. It's also the third in a trilogy of mother-son stories directed by Juan Antonio Bayona, and by far his most accomplished to date, but which touches upon familiar themes throughout his cinematic work to date. Those of life, death, dealing with mortality, childhood trauma, facing your fears, or even facing the most difficult experience of all, that of the truth. A Monster Calls is a fantasy fairy tale, but one that is truly grounded in reality, and where it truly excels and triumphs is by blurring the lines between fantasy and reality, as well as introducing a really difficult subject matter into what should ostensibly be a children's story, but which is anything but. I couldn't wait for the release of this film on New Year's Day of 2017, after seeing the trailer on my countless trips to my local cinema, and A Monster Calls truly did not disappoint, and nor does it on repeated viewings. 12:07 AM will never be the same again when you've watched this film, and should you watch this film for the first time after reading these rambling words, take a healthy amount of tissues, as you're going to need them. The mother and son in Bayona's latest cinematic treat are Mum, Felicity Jones, and Connor, Lewis McDougall, who in the absence of estranged husband and dad, Toby Kebbell, live together in a run-down terraced house in England. They also live with a horrible truth that is established very early in the film, with Connor's mum suffering with a terminal condition that without a life-saving medical breakthrough she may succumb to the disease hanging over her and her young son. It is against this backdrop that young teenage Connor lives his life, coupled with the threat of an overbearing and interfering grandma, Sigourney Weaver, who makes his life ever more difficult, so he retreats at exactly 12:07 AM every night into a fantastical fairy tale world inhabited by the monster, voiced by Liam Neeson. Too old to be a kid, too young to be a man, and thus one of the many obstacles in front of young Connor. Bullied at school and haunted by continual nightmares, Connor is a mature and independent young man way beyond his tender years, but dealing with the fallout of his mother's illness is taking a huge toll on him as he tries in vain to come to terms with the horrific situation. Isolated, angry and destructive, Connor retreats further and further into his own world, and a world that perhaps he can control, as he emulates his mother's talent for sketches and drawings, as well as his waking dream world with the monster. Connor seeks help from the monster, and although he may not see it, the help comes in the form of 3 separate stories told by his newfound friend, but only if Connor agrees to tell his story after. Stories are wild creatures according to the monster, and quickly he seemingly empowers Connor, who is in desperate need of help and reassurance, as well as an escape from the horrible truth that hangs over his family. As with Simon in The Orphanage and Lucas in The Impossible, Bayona again brilliantly focuses on, frames and shoots this film through the eyes of its child star, and here Lewis McDougall is absolutely phenomenal, magnetic and heartbreaking in his portrayal of Connor. Besieged on all sides and truly a child in an adult world, his performance is awe-inspiring and a wonderful achievement from one so young, and in only his second feature-length film following his debut in 2015's Pan. McDougall is also surrounded here by some stellar acting performances, particularly from Felicity Jones, who at first glance is completely unrecognisable in her role of Connor's mum, and similarly to her young co-star, Jones's performance is utterly heartbreaking. Sigourney Weaver portrays stern matriarch and pushy grandma particularly well in a cameo role, and a standout line from the film as she chastises her young grandson with a telling "I'm not the enemy, Connor." Toby Kebbell remains one of my favourite actors of recent times, and again does not disappoint in his anchor role of an absent dad, and Liam Neeson's gruff tones voice the all-important fairy tale monster. Quite simply, A Monster Calls is undoubtedly one of my favourite films of 2017, and indeed of recent times. Heartbreaking, and a real character study on the grieving process and overcoming insurmountable odds at such a young age. Director Bayona rounds off his mother-son trilogy brilliantly with an atmospheric, thought-provoking and gut-wrenching film that I had the twisted pleasure of seeing 3 times at my local cinema, and now twice since its recent DVD release, and I've adored it every single time. The film resonates with me on a number of levels, having had a similar experience as Connor's, and so my love for the film may be a little myopic, but make no mistake, despite the film's tough through line, it's a brilliantly crafted joy of a film, and one that I've taken something different from on every single viewing. Highly recommended. Just remember to pack some tissues. And that was A Monster Calls from 2017, directed by J.A. Bayona. And I couldn't possibly highly recommend it enough to you. And I'll leave in peace, and in solidarity. And thank you so much for being there, and thank you so much for watching. Peace, everyone.